My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment. There is a reason your eyes have landed here instead of somewhere else. Not by accident. Not by chance. What you are about to hear was meant to find you exactly when your heart was ready to receive it. Stay until the end, because something extraordinary is beginning to unfold, and every word you hear carries a piece of a story that has been hidden for far longer than you realize. Don't skip. There is something your soul has been waiting to understand, and today the first veil begins to lift. I have watched every silent prayer you whispered when no one else knew you were struggling. I have seen the questions you never asked aloud because you feared the answers might never come. I have seen the moments when you smiled for others while quietly wondering if anyone truly understood the weight you carried inside. Yet through every uncertain day, heaven never lost sight of you. Even when the road seemed empty, unseen hands were guiding every step. Even when silence surrounded you, a greater story was quietly being written beyond your vision. Now listen carefully, because something hidden is beginning to rise into the light. For a long time, someone connected to your future has carried a truth so deep that even they struggle to understand it themselves. They buried it beneath responsibilities. They covered it with distractions. They convinced themselves that keeping it hidden would protect everyone involved. But what is meant to come into the light can only remain hidden for so long. The season of silence is reaching its end. Pause here for another moment. If you feel your heart beating just a little differently, pay attention. Sometimes your spirit recognizes what your mind cannot explain. There are moments when heaven whispers before life speaks aloud. This is one of those moments. Don't skip, because every passing second is leading toward a revelation that has been preparing itself long before today. Your soulmate has been carrying more than memories. They have been carrying questions. Questions that returned each night when everything became quiet. Questions that refused to disappear no matter how hard they tried to move forward. There were days they laughed while something inside remained unfinished. There were conversations where they appeared present while their thoughts wandered somewhere they could never fully explain. They kept asking themselves why certain moments refused to leave their heart. Why one unseen connection continued to echo inside them even when logic suggested it should have faded long ago. The answer was never hidden from heaven. It was hidden only from human understanding. There were unseen moments when your paths almost crossed. Tiny decisions that seemed ordinary changed everything. A delayed journey. A different conversation. An unexpected obligation. What looked like coincidence was actually careful timing. You wondered why certain opportunities disappeared before they could begin, but you could not see the larger picture forming behind every delay. Timing protected what destiny intended to preserve. Something remarkable happened recently that your soulmate has shared with almost no one. It did not seem dramatic from the outside. No crowds noticed it. No headlines announced it. Yet inside their heart, everything shifted. A single moment awakened emotions they believed had disappeared forever. Something familiar returned. Not as a memory alone, but as a feeling impossible to ignore. They tried to explain it away. They told themselves it would pass. They convinced themselves they were simply overthinking. But every attempt to silence that feeling only made it stronger. Stay until the end, because this is only the beginning. Heaven often speaks quietly before it speaks clearly. A song appearing at the perfect moment. A conversation that unexpectedly mirrors hidden thoughts. A dream that lingers after sunrise. A peaceful feeling arriving without explanation. These are not always answers by themselves, but they prepare the heart for answers that are still approaching. Your soulmate has experienced these moments repeatedly. Each time they tried to dismiss them, another appeared. Each time they ignored the feeling, something even more meaningful followed. Eventually they reached a point where pretending became harder than listening. There was one evening unlike the others. Everything around them seemed ordinary, yet their thoughts became unusually still. Instead of running from what they had been avoiding, they finally allowed themselves to sit quietly with their own heart. In that silence, something unexpected surfaced, not a voice, not a vision, but an undeniable realization that refused to disappear. It stayed with them through the night and greeted them again the following morning. Since that day, they have not been the same. They smile differently. They notice little things they once overlooked. They find themselves wondering about possibilities they had already abandoned. And somewhere deep inside, they know something important is drawing closer. But here is what they have been hiding. They have hidden not because of fear alone. They have hidden because they worried the truth would change everything. Sometimes people delay honesty because they think they need perfect certainty before speaking. They wait for the ideal moment. They wait until every question is answered. They wait until every fear disappears. Yet life rarely works that way. Courage often arrives only after the first honest step is taken. Your soulmate has been standing on that invisible line between silence and honesty. Every day they move a little closer. Every day the hidden truth becomes harder to keep inside. Every day heaven gently removes another layer of uncertainty. Don't skip now. The next part of this story carries more weight than the last. You have wondered why certain chapters in your own life felt incomplete. Why some endings never brought peace. Why certain doors closed without explanation while others remained only slightly open, refusing either to welcome you or send you away completely. The reason is connected to something far greater than you imagined. Not every unfinished chapter is a mistake. Some remain unfinished because they belong to a future page. You have mistaken preparation for delay. You have mistaken silence for absence. You have mistaken waiting for rejection. But heaven has been arranging details you could never have controlled on your own. There were prayers you forgot you even prayed. Yet none of them were forgotten above. There were tears that no one noticed. Every one of them was counted. There were hopes you quietly released because disappointment became too heavy. Yet those hopes continued traveling long after you stopped speaking about them. This is why today's message found you. Not because everything has already happened. Because everything has begun moving. Your soulmate recently recognized something they had hidden from themselves for far too long. They finally understood that running from what they felt never brought peace. Ignoring what mattered never created freedom. Pretending certainty did not exist only delayed the moment when honesty would become unavoidable. At first, this realization frightened them. Then it humbled them. Finally, it gave them courage. Courage is growing inside them even now. It is growing quietly, patiently, steadily. Like dawn before sunrise. Can you feel the difference? Something within your own spirit may already sense that change is approaching before your eyes can see it. That feeling is not without purpose. Do not ignore it. Stay until the end because something even deeper is about to be revealed. There is another detail almost no one knows. Your soulmate has replayed certain memories over and over, searching for meaning hidden beneath ordinary moments. They have asked themselves why one particular feeling refused to disappear despite time passing. Instead of fading, it became clearer. Instead of weakening, it quietly strengthened. They began recognizing patterns. Small reminders appearing unexpectedly. Words spoken by strangers that echoed private thoughts. Moments of peace arriving in the middle of confusion. Doors closing only to reveal better paths later. Bit by bit, they realized their story was never random. Neither is yours. Nothing about this connection has been built upon coincidence alone. There are seasons when heaven allows distance because hearts must first become ready for what they are asking to receive. Without that preparation, blessings often arrive before they can truly be appreciated. What feels slow today often becomes tomorrow's greatest protection. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this. And that understanding is changing everything. Something they believed they had to carry alone no longer feels impossible, the burden is becoming lighter. The confusion is becoming clearer. The fear is slowly losing its voice. What remains is something they can no longer ignore. Hope. Real hope. Not wishful thinking. Not fantasy. A quiet confidence that refuses to disappear. Do not rush ahead. Let every word settle inside your heart. Because the next revelation is one that changes the entire direction of this story. There is someone your soulmate almost confided in recently. They nearly spoke the truth aloud. The words reached the edge of their lips before hesitation pulled them back into silence. They walked away wondering if they had missed their opportunity. But heaven does not measure opportunities the way people do. What belongs in its appointed time cannot be stolen by one uncertain moment. That conversation is not finished. It has only been postponed. And when it returns, it will not return empty. Something unexpected will accompany it. Something that neither of you fully anticipates. That is why today's message matters. Preparation always comes before revelation. Peace often arrives before understanding. Faith often grows before visible change. Do not become discouraged if every answer has not yet appeared. The story has reached the point where hidden things no longer remain hidden forever. And this is where part 1 must pause. Because there is one final truth your soulmate has kept locked inside for far longer than anyone realizes. It is the very secret that explains every hesitation, every delay, every silent struggle, and every unexpected turn that brought both of your journeys to this exact moment. The first door has opened. The second door reveals the truth they have never fully spoken. And once that truth comes into the light, nothing in this story will ever feel the same again. My beloved child, do not look away now. Stay with this message because the story has reached the moment where silence begins to lose its power. If your heart feels unusually still, there is a reason. If you sense that something important is about to unfold, do not dismiss it. Heaven often prepares the soul moments before revealing what the eyes have longed to see. Don't skip. Stay until the end. Something even greater is waiting for you, and the next part of this journey carries a truth that has remained hidden through countless quiet seasons. The secret your soulmate has carried was never about pretending not to care. It was never about forgetting. It was never about moving on while leaving the past behind. The hidden truth was much deeper than anyone around them could have imagined. They convinced themselves that protecting everyone else meant hiding what they truly felt. They believed silence would prevent disappointment. They believed waiting would make the questions disappear. But every sunrise brought those same questions back with even greater clarity. There were nights when they stared into the darkness, replaying conversations that seemed ordinary at the time but now carried entirely different meaning. A simple smile. A brief encounter. A passing thought that should have faded but somehow became brighter with each passing day. They tried to replace those memories with new routines, yet every attempt only reminded them of what remained unfinished inside their heart. Pause for a moment. Listen carefully. What you are hearing is not merely a story about two people. It is a story about timing, growth, and the quiet work that heaven accomplishes long before anyone notices visible change. The greatest transformations often happen where no human eye can see. Roots grow in silence before trees ever reach toward the sky. Likewise, hearts are prepared long before their next chapter begins. Your soulmate slowly began noticing that every path they chose seemed to guide them back toward the same realization. They met different people. They explored different opportunities. They filled their days with responsibilities, hoping constant activity would quiet the voice within. Instead, every experience became another reminder that something essential was still waiting to be acknowledged. At first this realization frightened them because it demanded honesty. Honest conversations are rarely comfortable. Honest moments often require people to release old fears before they can receive new peace. They realized they had spent more energy hiding their heart than listening to it. That discovery changed something deep within them. Stay until the end. Don't skip. What comes next explains why everything has been moving beneath the surface without anyone fully recognizing it. One morning they woke with an unusual sense of calm. Nothing extraordinary had happened around them. The world outside looked exactly the same. Yet inside, something had shifted forever. They no longer wanted to run from what they felt. They no longer wanted to pretend uncertainty was easier than truth. For the first time in a long while, they admitted that the feeling they carried deserved to be understood rather than ignored. That single decision became the beginning of everything. Heaven often waits for one sincere moment of openness before unfolding an entirely new chapter. It is not because heaven withholds blessings, but because hearts must become ready to recognize them. Readiness is rarely loud. It often arrives quietly, disguised as peace replacing confusion. As that peace grew, your soulmate noticed remarkable changes. Their fears no longer spoke as loudly. Their doubts no longer controlled every decision. They began seeing possibilities where they once saw only obstacles. Every day brought another small reminder that hope had never truly left them. It had simply been waiting beneath layers of uncertainty. Then something happened that they have shared with almost no one. They came across something unexpected, perhaps a familiar place, perhaps a memory, perhaps a simple reminder that seemed insignificant to everyone else. Yet in that instant, emotions they thought were buried forever returned with astonishing clarity. It felt as though time itself had paused. Questions they had carried for months suddenly formed into a single unmistakable realization. This cannot be ignored anymore. Those words echoed silently within them. Not because someone else spoke them. Because their own heart finally did. Do you see how quietly heaven works? No thunder. No dramatic spectacle. Just one perfectly timed moment that gently changes the direction of an entire life. Don't skip now. Something huge is waiting for you. The truth is growing closer with every passing moment. Your soulmate has also been learning something about courage. Courage is not the absence of uncertainty. Courage is choosing honesty while uncertainty still exists. They always believed they needed complete confidence before speaking openly. Instead, they discovered that confidence often follows the decision to be truthful rather than preceding it. This realization has become impossible for them to forget. Every passing day strengthens it. Every quiet prayer deepens it. Every peaceful moment confirms it. Meanwhile, you have been walking your own journey without realizing how closely heaven has been aligning both paths. There were disappointments that protected you from wrong directions. There were delays that quietly prevented unnecessary pain. There were unanswered questions that kept you moving until the right season arrived. Nothing was wasted. Not your patience. Not your tears. Not your hope. Every experience became part of a preparation greater than either of you understood. There is another hidden detail. Your soulmate has recently begun letting go of an old fear that influenced countless decisions. It whispered that honesty might change everything for the worse. It suggested that silence was safer than vulnerability. Yet every day that fear grows weaker. Why? Because peace has begun speaking louder than fear ever could. This is one of heaven's quiet miracles. Fear becomes smaller when truth becomes stronger. The remarkable part is that your soulmate does not even realize how much they have changed. Growth often happens so naturally that people only recognize it when they look back. They are becoming someone more willing to trust, more willing to listen, and more willing to take meaningful steps instead of remaining trapped by uncertainty. Stay until the end. This next revelation is one of the most important yet. There is someone close to them who has noticed this transformation. They may not understand its full meaning, but they have quietly observed a difference. They have seen a new peace replacing old hesitation. They have noticed conversations becoming more thoughtful. They have sensed that something meaningful is unfolding beneath the surface. That observer does not yet know the full story. But they have recognized the change. Sometimes heaven allows others to witness transformation before they understand its cause. Your soulmate has also begun releasing old expectations about how everything should unfold. They no longer insist that every answer arrive immediately. Instead, they are learning to trust each small step. And strangely enough, the more they release control, the more clearly the path ahead begins to appear. Isn't that how faith often works? The moment we stop forcing every answer, we finally become able to receive them. There is something else they have been hiding. Not from you. From themselves. For a long time they underestimated the importance of what they carried inside. They treated it as a passing emotion rather than a lasting truth. They believed it would eventually disappear if ignored long enough. But genuine feelings rarely disappear through neglect. They simply wait patiently until they are finally acknowledged. Now that acknowledgement has begun. It cannot be reversed. It cannot be forgotten. It cannot return to silence. Don't skip. Stay until the end. The next chapter depends on this one. Even now, unseen pieces continue moving into place. Conversations are being prepared. Unexpected opportunities are quietly approaching. Circumstances that once appeared disconnected are gradually forming a picture that neither of you could have imagined months ago. You may not recognize these changes immediately. But you will recognize them when the time is right. Heaven never rushes what requires careful preparation. The greatest stories unfold one faithful step at a time. And now the second door begins to open. Your soulmate is closer than ever to revealing what has remained hidden. The weight of silence is becoming too heavy to carry. The peace they have recently discovered is giving them strength they never believed possible. Soon, a decision will stand before them, one that cannot be postponed forever. That decision will not simply reveal a feeling. It will reveal the reason every unexpected delay, every mysterious turn, every unanswered question, and every quiet season existed in the first place. But before that moment arrives, one final obstacle remains hidden in the shadows. It is smaller than it once was. Yet it still stands between silence and complete honesty. When that final obstacle is removed, the story will enter a chapter neither of you could have predicted. And that is where this part must end.